Honey, hurry! Hurry! Sweetie!
I've got my gum pants on!
Welcome back to another episode of 1980s Now, a weekly examination of the importance of 1980s pop culture and its influence today. Hey, everybody, my name is Will, and joining me, as always, are my friends, the Angel and Demon, not necessarily respectively, Kat and John.
Probably.
Hey, guys.
Hi, guys.
Greetings and salutations.
You say probably?
Probably
so,
respectively. Yeah.
Hey, we are streaming to you or recording live right now as we stream on Facebook. If you'd like to participate in our show sometime soon, anytime in the future, please join us any Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on either of those platforms.
That's where we are.
Hey, on today's podcast, what we're going to do is we're going to catch up on current news stories related to 1980s media, including the Superman filming location that has piqued my interest, the Indiana Jones video game that may have me buying an Xbox, but it won't. I'll explain why.
But it won't.
Why Anthony Daniels, C-3PO, is selling his Star Wars memorabilia, the Macabre, quote-unquote, Beatles collectible that was withdrawn from auction, a favorite GenX treat has been discontinued, a 1980s wrestling superstar has rescued someone in real life, and we're going to talk about how the Chilean special edition of Star Wars is better than the Lucas edits. Oh, my gosh. It's the edits we didn't know we needed.
In some ways, yes.
Kat, have you seen these videos yet?
Oh, I love them.
Oh, my God, right. Such a
I
big
watched
fan.
them.
Yeah. So, and look, we're getting caught up on 1980s news. There's no particular topic today because there's a whole lot of news that we've been, quite honestly, I've been pushing aside because, I want to talk about other things. That's part of it. And quite honestly, we're not ready with a topic at this week. So there you go, whatever. But anyway, as usual, though, not only are we going to examine these particular 1980s pop cultures with, with a lens for a nostalgic lens of how they may have, impacted us, affected us when we were younger and first experiencing some of these things, but from the perspective of today as Gen X grown-ups, because this is the new show, Gen X Grown Up. I'm going to get that website.
Point of order?
Yeah. What is it, John? You have something to say about that?
I'm going to just use the form letter that Aldi sent me and send it to you.
Oh, cease and desist?
Cease and desist, yeah. That's my way of saying, hey, don't forget to check out John on his very own podcast, Gen X.
Yes, thank you.
But seriously, look, not only do we talk about, we don't talk about just items from hey, you remember that time when there was this TV show? No. Let's talk about what's going on with it right now, because there is constantly. All right, anyway, that's enough of that. Hey, let's get caught up on all of that 1980s news. And as we do these stories, folks in our live audience here, if you've got any thoughts, toss them in the comments. We would love to learn what you think about these things and share it with the audience, the larger audience as well. Hey, this week in 1980s news, as reported by Tri-State Homepage, a wrestling legend is a hero. Did you guys know that Florida is a state where people live? Like, I thought it had Disney and Universal. In Miami.
And aside from that, it's just a punchline.
Yeah.
I know a couple people who live there. Yeah. Used to live there. Yeah.
No one important.
Yeah.
I assure you.
And it turns out they're not all monsters because some of them are doing good things. Like this story here, this so heartwarming story. On January 16th, we tease because John lives in Florida. For folks that think I'm just shitting on Florida for just no reason.
You're gonna get email from listeners. What's wrong with Florida?
Yeah.
Without context.
We got enough people hating on us after that Billy Mitchell video.
Oh no.
Never gotten into so many dumb arguments before on social media about nonsense. And John, it's mostly because of John. I could have warned you. Too. It's because of John, what he said.
I could have warned you. Yeah. Who edited that thing?
Everybody's like, how dare you defend Billy Mitchell?
He's not a human being.
God, did you watch the video? One of those guys wasn't. Anyway. Oh, Billy Mitchell's from Florida too, right? Anyway, hey, look, on January 16th, Hulk Hogan and a friend came to a teenage girl's rescue after she flipped her car on the Veterans Expressway in Tampa.
Yeah, brother.
Photos published by TMZ showed the retired wrestler and his friend approach a flipped car on the highway right in the area of exit 2A in Clearwater. Now, I've got to tell you, when I read this story, and this is an older story that we're catching up on, as I mentioned, and I hear this, photos published by TMZ show Hulk Hogan rescuing somebody. I really hoped and imagined he was turning the car over. Did you guys think that too? You can see he's just like,
oh my gosh,
like a la the Incredible Hulk.
Yes. The opening credits, and he's like, yes.
That is what I wanted to read. That is it.
The story is much less dramatic. Instead, he punctured an airbag with a ballpoint pen. Hooray! I saved the day.
Hey, no, but there's a little, that's pretty much it. But it is pretty exciting, and it's neat to see. I don't know if you guys watch. You watch the Reacher television show based on the novels by Lee Child. I love that show. I love the books. I've read, I don't know, maybe a dozen or so, and otherwise listened to them. Probably less, maybe closer to 10. But the show is great. It's very much in keeping with the books. And I really, Alan Richardson, who plays a Reacher, is a giant. He's a wall of a human being, right?
Imposing.
Oh, he's like 6'4", 300 pounds, 80% muscle, lean body fat. Oh, whatever. I guess 80% wouldn't make it lean though, right? 95%. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
But
he's a beast. He's a wall of meat, that guy.
I saw him tell this story. Maybe you saw it, where he did a real Jack Reacher thing, where it was something like a woman he and his wife were on their way to dinner somewhere in Toronto or something. And a guy ran by and a woman was like, "Stop him. He's got my purse." He ran the guy down, really tackled him, and held him until the police came.
All right.
I mean, yeah. Anyway, much like that. So it's always heartwarming when you see, some of your heroes come to, do these kinds of heroic acts in real life. And I say the same of Hulk Hogan. Born Terry Bollea, Hogan began his professional wrestling career in 1977. Of course, gained worldwide recognition when he signed with what was then known as the World Wrestling Federation in December of 1983. That was the era in which I watched wrestling. I think everybody did, almost like listening to country music. Folks became fans of wrestling.
It was that phase where we all kind of went, "Oh, this is pretty cool" at the moment in pop culture.
I was already into wrestling when Hulk Hogan came along, because my dad used to take us to Convention Hall in Asbury Park, New Jersey. And the wrestlers in those situations were, there was a little color. There was George the Animal Steel. He was always fun. And Andre the Giant. But they all kind of wore the same things, right? There wasn't a lot of flash.
Yeah, what was that thing called? The singlet, right? With the one over the one shoulder singlet, like a caveman.
Like Andre wore. Yeah.
Yes. There was that, or just, the trunks or whatever. Trunks, yes. But then all of a sudden, like Hulk comes along and it was like, what is this? With his bandana and his bright yellow.
Kat, it will come as no surprise to you that my dad also took me down to the George Fleming Civic Center to see wrestling, and Gordon Soley's announcing all that same stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
And too, during that time, as WWF was becoming a big thing, it was getting marketed to kids just like He-Man was. There were so many toys and action figures and the ring with the rubber bands. You could smack guys against each other. Remember that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, he's off the ropes, and you whiplash them into each other.
So it was during this era that Hogan's persona as the All-American helped usher in the 1980s professional wrestling boom, and he still, to this day, he remains one of the most well-known, most recognized wrestling superstars of all time, certainly. Well, according to Hogan's wife, Sky Daly, who sounds like a weather reporter.
Yeah, actually. Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect name for a weather person. Sky Daly?
It is.
Yes.
Right.
Or a newspaper, I guess, or a newspaper. Anyway, according to her,
the second only to Dick Sprinkles.
Wait, it's not a real name, is it? That's it.
Yeah. I know that guy. Yeah, I do.
Oh, wait, was that a news guy?
No, it was a real guy that I've worked with in my life.
Oh, my goodness.
He was a weather guy. Sure enough.
That's insane. All right, whatever.
If Will could look any more incredulous, he would.
John really worked the news, so I'm like,
yeah, it's a meteorologist.
Would they let a guy in the air named Dick Sprinkles?
Absolutely.
Wait, did you say he was a meteorologist
somewhere?
Did you say he was a meteorologist or a urologist?
Oh,
I heard meteorologist. He was a meaty urologist.
Maybe that too. I didn't ask for a business card. He was working the weather. So,
well, according to the Sky Daily, she wrote, quote, last night after we left dinner in Tampa, we saw a car flip in front of us. I truly admire my husband, Hulk Hogan, and our good buddy for springing into action, puncturing the girl's airbag and getting her quickly out of the car.
Hooray!
Great sound effect.
You did it.
Hogan said the teenager had some divine intervention on her part thanks to the tool he used to deflate her airbags. He wrote, quote, the crazy part of the teenager that flipped her car was without a knife to puncture the airbags to get her out, an Indian Rocks Christian ballpoint pen came in really handy to pop the bags. Thank you, God. Okay. All is well now. Amen. Indian Rocks is a Baptist church in Largo
that apparently gives away dangerous pens that can be used as weapons.
That could be something. Yeah, to get out.
Anything could be a weapon. Anything.
Cat spoken like an educator.
Yep.
Karen says, I always liked Roddy Piper. Did not get that he was a villain in the storylines, but he was supposed to have been a great guy. Yeah, and he was great in the movies, right? I mean,
right? Yeah.
I love that he had that villain on wrestling, Saturday mornings, but then he was in They Live and playing a hero. That was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. He ran out of bubble gum, I hear.
Yeah. If he only had more gum. He was in a store when he said it.
I know.
Brendan says Hogan was cool. The Ultimate Warrior was my all-time favorite. Yeah. Talk about bringing, some flash and style. Ultimate Warrior had, had some more bling, some more wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And face paint and feathers and tights.
Yeah. In other 1980s news, as reported by Nerdist, a Chilean Star Wars TV broadcast cut ads into the films. I mean, if you guys aren't aware of this, I love this. I don't know how this evaded us in the early 2000s. But
when did you learn of this? I just found out about this about a week ago. Yesterday. Okay. Yeah. So I guess it's percolated to the top. Is that what trending is all about? Enough people, critical mass, hear about it, and suddenly everybody hears about it. So
it's weird, because as we'll learn, it happened in the early 2000s, and the internet was there, but I guess we didn't have the social media the way we do.
No,
or streaming video, or
that's true. Yeah, where would you have put it? Yeah, that's a good point. As you know, for decades now, the original Star Wars trilogy has been a perennial broadcast of TV marathons all around the world, shown in just about every language. Well, recently, as we're mentioning here, videos from the 2003 broadcast of the original trilogy in Chile have resurfaced online, and thank goodness. Because in these particular showings of classic Star Wars, they didn't cut to traditional commercial breaks. No, they had a genius idea that I think should be adopted by more companies. Instead, they edited the films to make it seem like the characters from the movie were advertising the broadcast sponsor, a regional beer called Cerveza Cristal. Now I've got 5 of these clips, but I'll show you as many as you want to endure. But here, we'll check out
all of them.
Here they are.
Give me all the things.
I cut them a little bit for time, but here you go. And
okay.
If you're listening to us, you can check out this video on YouTube where we're actually showing these videos to our audience here.
Best star pilot in the galaxy. And he was a good friend. Which reminds me, I have something here for you.
Cerveza Cristal. Cerveza Cristal.
That's fucking bonkers!
Cerveza Cristal. Oh, I love it.
That was the first one that I watched of these clips. And I didn't have, I read about what was going to happen, but I didn't have a real sense of it yet. But when Obi-Wan says, I have something here for you, I was like, no. And
I was even okay there. It's then when it breaks into the jingle.
Yes.
I'm like, wait a minute. We're like stopping the movie. I thought it was going to be like this, like clever product placement with edits. And it starts there and then it breaks into more.
Had he moved the beers. So for folks who are just listening, when Obi-Wan is in his cave, about to give Luke Skywalker a lightsaber for the first time, as you know, because you've seen the film, he reaches into a chest and pulls out the lightsaber that once belonged to Anakin. Instead, in the chest, we see it's a cooler filled with ice and this beer that they're hawking. Now, if he had cleared the beers,
there's a body double. There's a body double with like a robe down to his wrist, so it looks like it could be Guinness's arms.
Yeah.
That's great.
Now, had he just moved the bottles aside and pulled out the lightsaber, they could have gone straight back to the movie. But like as John points out, the jingle cuts in, and the logo for the beer appears on the screen. It's fucking bonkers.
It's awesome. Awesome.
Here's another one from later in the film.
Oh,
okay.
Yes. A lot of strange stuff, but I've never seen anything to make me believe there's one all-powerful force controlling everything.
Cerveza cristal.
I love this. This is just, I love this, man.
It's so good.
Look, you've heard me lament about the changes George Lucas has made to the movies. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I would mind this. It's just too fucking funny and brilliant. I don't know. Maybe I'm just. You want more? I got more.
Yes.
And there's not like there's any like trickery. There's no like CGI or anything. They just fully cut to another shot that's shaded to look similar. And you're like, oh no, he just pulled out a beer from inside his robe.
Yeah.
Are we clear on like the first one?
Yeah.
When they're in the cave, do they also show him after that reaching for the lightsaber, or like how do they splice it in, or is it just so abrupt? You know what I mean?
In the version I saw, a little longer, I don't know, like there's a bit missing there where they're back sitting together and talking about the lightsaber. I think that's what I remember seeing.
Okay.
Yeah, it just goes back to the film, Kat. Yeah, it's just
okay. So it's just very abrupt as it seems.
Yeah. Okay. And they clipped out a little bit, I think, to make it like almost you could fit in there, but you're not fooling anybody at that point.
Yeah. Now, look, if you're like us, at first you feel like this has got to be some kind of elaborate prank just created for clicks. Because there's not dissimilar things online where folks are having fun with other original content and changing it just, to make it funnier or whatever.
Sure.
But according to a 2004 report by The Guardian, Cristal's Beer's agency, OMD Santiago, received an award at that year's Cannes International Advertising Festival for the innovation.
Oh, proof.
Right. Not from Lucasfilm.
No.
Mind you.
Probably not.
That's true. Yes. In contrast, as John suggests, Lucasfilm was not too happy about these edits. And in spite of the fact that they let a number of folks do fan films and otherwise create their own original content using what otherwise properties that would need to be licensed, they instead insisted that this company stop doing that. Because Uncle George is the only one that's allowed to make these, controversial changes. So in 2004, Lucas filed a grievance with the Chilean Council for Self-Regulation and Advertising Ethics. Lucasfilm's lawyers argued that the product placement misled viewers into believing there was an official association between the two. And ultimately, the council decreed that the commercials were not to be altered again.
Well, you understand, George, back when this film was first made, we wanted to have Cerveza Cristal in the film. We just didn't have the technology.
Yes.
And now that we can.
That's right. Well,
so good.
Even though, in spite of the ruling, however, the channel and this beer company partnered once more in 2004, embedding their beer scenes into other popular movies, including American Beauty, Notting Hill, and Gladiator.
Wow.
Are you not entertained?
Cerveza Cristal.
No. You guys want to see I got a couple more.
More. Those are the only two I've seen. So anything else you have, I've not seen yet.
I didn't even see that second one with someone in it. Yeah.
All right. Here is another one from A New Hope.
Oh my God.
So Obi-Wan is about to shut down the tractor beam, and instead, in that tower where the device is a cooler right built into a refrigerated.
There's coolers everywhere.
That's amazing.
There's ice in every little cubby hole throughout Star Wars.
Coolers everywhere. So my question is, right, do we never see him actually go?
No, they go back to it. They go back to it.
Oh, they do go back to it. Okay,
yeah.
all right.
No, it would be funny if people who had never seen the Star Wars films before First, a couple things would happen. One, they would think that these things were part of the film. And two, they'd be like, well, how'd they shut the tractor beam down? Because this dude got drunk.
Right.
Yeah, no, they go back to it.
And three, they became inexplicably thirsty.
Yes. Now they hear, bum, bum,
man, are you thirsty? I'm thirsty.
Yeah.
Every time I hear John Williams, I want a beer.
Yeah. Now, here, I've got two more for you. Here's one from The Empire Strikes Back.
Clear your mind of questions.
Okay. Just sitting in the trunk of a tree on a random tree in Dagobah.
Dagobah.
Okay.
In the forest
There you
tree.
go.
Yeah, there's a beer there. Yeah.
It's a beer tree. That's the seasonal fruit.
The beer
It's a can of beer.
I got one final one for you here from, I believe it's from Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
It is pointless to resist, my son.
Oh my God.
That might be the best one.
So, for those of you not watching or listening, that was the Emperor, and they shot it in reverse. They played it in reverse, so it looked like he was force grabbing a beer up into his outstretched hand. It just clearly was run backwards.
I love these things so much.
Wonderful.
Brandon says, this is the most amazing advertising editing I've ever seen. I agree. Karen says, she's just hearing about this now. Great beer name. I love the alliteration. Owl says, Alec Guinness. Now I get it.
Yes.
John says, Bruby-Wan Kenobi.
Nice.
And asks, how much would a cooler full of ice set Obi-Wan back on the desert planet of Tatooine? That's a good point. Yeah, how did he get ice?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
well, that's why he kept it in there with the lightsabers, because it was precious.
Yeah. So,
Alec Guinness is doubling up on Ice Pirates, another film of the era.
Even on Dagobah, it's pretty sultry there on Dagobah, I think. Ice would be a commodity.
Sultry.
Yeah. So this sort of thing is happening all over, and I think it's fantastic. In fact, I just saw they did this to our show too, guys. It's really just quite terrible, but I can't be mad because I love this whole campaign. Even John.
I made so much bank for that.
John drank a beer on the show last year, and they changed it to
Will. You win. Will wins.
Hey, speaking of Star Wars and other 1980s news, as reported by The Hollywood Reporter, a Star Wars actor is saying goodbye to his memorabilia. So Anthony Daniels, as I mentioned, the actor who played C-3PO, in numerous Star Wars movies and TV shows over the last 40 years, is unloading his entire collection of Star Wars goodies in an auction thrown by the Memorabilia Specialist Prop Store that will be held this week in Los Angeles. Now, we talked about this a little bit briefly because I didn't realize he was getting rid of everything, but we used his script, one of his scripts, as an example to try to get a price point when estimating what I recently discovered a Harrison Ford script from A New Hope auction for.
I remember.
Anyway, one of the centerpieces of Anthony Daniels' collection is a screen-matched light-up head that Daniels wore in 1983's Return of the Jedi. The object consists of a faceplate, backplate, and neck ring, and it could fetch anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million. A similar auction involving Daniels last November with another C-3PO had gabbled for almost $850,000.
I have a good buddy who's trying to raise the minimum starting bid for this of $350,000. I mean, probably tongue-in-cheek trying to raise it, but you would love it.
I'll tell you what, if he raises that money, he'll still have it because it's not going to go for that.
I know. He's not
you can do it safely. In fact, yes.
Oh, it's so cute how you thought the minimum bid would be the closing bid.
I
So adorable.
And you know what? Tell your friend to just bet it then. You don't even have to raise the money.
You're never going to need it.
Yes.
After his final photo shoot with the mask, Daniels wondered, quote, am I right to move this on? Having lived with these items for decades, Daniels says he has, quote, very mixed feelings. He continues, I had all this stuff. Almost all of it was in cupboards, drawers, and in attics. I can't imagine being C-3PO and not having your stuff on shelves.
Well, that tells me he's got so much stuff,
I guess,
that he probably has some stuff on display. Yeah. And he's like, oh, there's another box of Star Wars shit that I don't have any place to put. You know, it's in the closet. It's in the...
John never played Wreck-It Ralph in a movie, but he's got a fucking dozen Wreck-It Ralphs on his shelf behind him.
That's right. But like Anthony Daniels, I have even more that you can't see on my shelves that's up in the attic. So I get it.
All right. Well, there you go. And it turns out this is the second and although final batch of items being unloaded by the actor who previously sold a stash in a prop store auction last November. It's a rare opportunity for collectors as Daniels is the only major actor from the franchise to openly sell his memorabilia. In 2023, items belonging to the late Chewbacca actor Peter Mayhew were to have been sold off until his widow learned of the auction and asked for the items to be donated to Mayhew's foundation. Anyway, amid the everything must go mentality, Daniels kept two things. One was a statue from Lucasfilm congratulating him on 40 years of service, and the other, an 18-inch C-3PO statue made out of Legos.
Nice.
I don't imagine if I had to pick two things, those would be the two things I would pick.
Like, I could see the one, but you can build another one of the second one.
Yeah.
Well, who knows who gave it to him? Maybe it was a special gift giver that bestowed it upon him.
Maybe. Yeah. Still,
like a kid, grandchild.
If I could take a $50 pile of Lego and just by being Anthony Daniels turn into $50,000, I might sell it.
Yeah. Oh, you have a point.
And just keep making them. Just keep making more.
You do have a point. I had him again. Oh, look, I have another one.
That's right.
Yeah, that's funny.
This is from the personal collection of Anthony Daniels. I just built it.
I touched it.
Yep.
Daniels was originally going to leave his collection to his wife, Christine Savage, to sell after he died. When he told her of his plan, her response was, why don't you sell it now? Prop Store's entertainment memorabilia auction runs from March 12th through the 14th with the Anthony Daniels collection hitting March 13th.
John?
Yes, Kat.
Yeah. John, does your wife say that? Why don't you sell it now?
I think Anthony Daniels' wife and my wife would get along.
Oh.
Would get along, right.
Yeah.
She said, well, if you die before I do, I'm just going to light a match. It's just too much to deal with.
Oh, no.
That means everything just must be soaked in kerosene already. It's ready to go. Just in case.
She has tanks cleverly placed around the house for just such an eventuality.
Right. John gets a cough and she's like, strikes a match. John, you feeling all right?
No, put it out. Throw it out.
Okay, I just went down the wrong pipe.
I'll be fine.
Hey, speaking of auctions, from cherished memorabilia to macabre tchotchkes, as reported by the Fox Business News, this is just really disturbing to me. Anyway, a bullet from the gun.
Yeah, me too. Go ahead.
A bullet from the gun that murdered John Lennon has been withdrawn from auction. Now, originally, we almost talked about this a couple of weeks ago when it was announced it was going to be part of the auction, but are now happy to report it's been pulled from auction. So I feel a little more comfortable talking about it. A British auction house had planned to sell the bullet from the gun that was used to kill John Lennon in 1980. But as I mentioned, they've now pulled it from the lot. The auction was scheduled for February 28th and generated international headlines after it was covered by the BBC. The bullet, now this is, look, initially you think is this a bullet that killed John Lennon? What does this mean?
Right.
A bullet they found?
That was
No.
He missed
even
one
more
shot and it was in a wall. It's not as horrible as that, but it's still dark. The bullet was recovered from the gun long after British songwriter, singer, musician, and a former leader of the Beatles was killed by Mark David Chapman on December 8th in 1980 in Manhattan. According to the auction house Anderson & Garland, which is based in Newcastle, the bullet originally belonged to Brian Taylor, who served as chief superintendent for the Northumbria Police in the UK. His family, after Taylor had passed, gave it up for auction. At the time the bullet was scheduled for auction, the auction house said that Taylor's family had, quote, decided it's time for another true John Lennon fan to own this historic item, end quote.
The skin crawled a bit.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, well, if you're wondering, like I suggested, it wasn't involved in, the gun was involved in the murder. The bullet was not. And here's the story of how that came to be according to the lot's description. Taylor, again, who's from the UK, was a chief superintendent with the UK, was patrolling with the New York Police Department in the Big Apple when a sequence of events eventually led him to the weapon. And this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
While in New York on patrol with the NYPD, Taylor was involved in a shooting, and being both British and a visitor, he was the only officer that was unarmed. Now, he's just a visitor, so they don't, hey, you're visiting from, not like the movies. You're visiting from London. Here, take a gun.
Here, have a pistol.
In spite of the fact,
you're American now.
In spite of the fact we have literally 2 guns for every person in the United States, including children.
Yeah.
Not everybody gets a gun when they show up. But also, I think to this day, right? British bobbies or police officers, they're not armed. So,
that's right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So he wouldn't be armed anyway. So he's on patrol with them. They get into a shootout. He's unarmed. So Taylor's then was taken to a small NYPD affiliated museum to see the weapon by a, quote, way of apology, end quote.
Weird.
Because they were aware that he was a big fan of the Beatles. Hey, you're British. You like the Beatles, right? I mean, was it more than that?
Here, have a bullet.
Yeah. So when they at this museum, they give him this, they let him have the gun, hold the gun that murdered John Lennon. And not only that, they let him fire bullets from it.
That is baffling to me. What?
Yeah, are they still in the museum? I mean, where is this?
Yeah, I don't know. I hope they went down to the range.
I hope so.
I hope.
What's unclear to me is, I don't think these bullets were in the gun when Lennon was shot necessarily.
Right.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
I mean, were they leftover bullets or whatever? Which makes this so degrees of separation. Here's a bullet that was fired from the gun that was used. It wasn't involved. It just touched to the gun.
Yeah.
You could wipe it down with a rag and go, here's a rag that touched to the gun. It wasn't part of the crime.
Right.
It just at one point was in proximity to the crime weapon. And so it's so barely even a collectible, even if you agreed it is a collectible, which I don't think it is.
It's not a collectible, and I'm baffled at, okay, fine, bring him to the museum. Okay, we have this item. But to take it out and be shooting it, oh my God.
That's awesome. I get to see the gun. That's great. Yeah. Want to shoot off a few rounds? Wait, what?
Now,
really?
Yeah, and also, he probably has no gun experience firing a gun either, because they don't carry guns.
Oh my gosh.
So I squeeze this part? Yeah, you squeeze. Keep squeezing. There'll be a click and then a bang.
In the comments,
just be ready.
In the comments, John writes, here, have a bullet. Cerveza Cristal. So then they retrieve the bullet and the cartridge, and they give it to Taylor as a gift. And he takes them and mounts them and hangs them on the wall, which he has in his office for the remainder of his career. Now, it's not the auction house has not said why they withdrew the item. I would imagine it's public pressure or outrage.
It's ridiculous.
I realized it was,
That's why.
But just like our conversation here, the auction generated some controversy among Beatles fans that found the auction to be the potential auction to be in poor taste. One Reddit one commenter on Reddit wrote, a true Beatles fan couldn't possess such a thing. Yeah, a true Beatles. What the music is the legacy, not some macabre connection to the very weapon that robbed John's family, friends, and fans of the life he would have continued to live. Oh,
yeah.
So instead, that bullet will be donated to the Foundation for Peter Mayhew.
Oh, there you go.
Just as we did with the last thing pulled out of the auction. That's where all dead auctions go. Straight to the Foundation for Peter Mayhew.
Go to the Foundation.
Brandon writes, straight up money grab attempt. That's about selling the underwear that one of the paramedics wore when they worked on Lennon.
Right. Right.
Oh. It hasn't been washed. That's the question. Has it been washed?
No. Of course not. All right. Hey, in other 19... Let me just do news. The show flies along, doesn't it? Just sitting that way.
Yeah.
Is it flying along?
I think so. I've been talking for over half an hour.
Kat said she feels like it's dragging.
We're talking for 40 minutes.
Is it flying? What do you got? Another bullet story? Let's go.
Hey, sadly, another favorite from our youths is now defunct. Now, again, this is a story we're catching up on. I didn't get a chance to talk to you guys about this, and I certainly wanted to get your thoughts because it was important to me.
So sad.
Okay.
In January, Ferrara Candy announced that it will no longer be producing fruit stripe gum. And while the short-lived flavor of the candy has been the butt of jokes since the candy's inception in the 1960s, the candy itself endured for over 63 years. So there you go. Congratulations.
Good for you, Fruit Stripe.
Yeah.
Yes.
But unfortunately, yipes. The candy's multicolored zebra mascot has been put out to pasture.
I was today years old when I learned that zebra had a name.
Same.
I had no idea. They didn't do a very good job of it. You know, Tony Tiger, Toucan Sam, that damn zebra. It was like nobody ever said his name.
And apparently, I read that maybe this was from commercials or other advertising material, but that was his catchphrase to say "yipes."
Really?
I don't remember that.
Not in my world. Yeah, I never.
I don't know what the context is that would lead him to say "yipes" either. You know,
because it rhymes with stripe.
Yeah, that's the only thing, right? Yeah.
That yipes, stripes.
John, you may have. I bet you knew this though. That Yipes wasn't the first mascot of the gum, which of course is odd considering the fact that one of the selling points was
striped.
That the gum is striped, the packaging was striped, the paper it was in was striped. Anyway, the Beechnut company that introduced the gum in 1960, Beechnut, the company that introduced the gum in 1960, went through a number of different animal mascots and actually started with a fruit striped gum man. It was an anthropomorphic gum pack with limbs and a face.
Oh, okay.
So like, what's his name? The
Mr. Peanut?
The Twinkie the Kid. Twinkie the Kid. It was an actual Twinkie with a lasso in the arms. So it was like an actual stick of gum.
Yeah.
And you strap him down and rip the paper off.
It is odd, right? Yeah.
Right.
There you go. Now we got it.
My skin, my striped skin.
Well, I guess he's the gum pack, so he's like, pull something out of me and eat it. Yikes. God. But Twinkie the
Kid, got 3 left before I'm dead.
That's why Twinkie the Kid was packing, now. They didn't want anybody to eat him.
He's in a lasso. Hey, get your mitts off me.
Oh, he had a lasso, not a gun?
Creamy filling.
Oh, no.
He might have had a gun too. He had a holster, right?
Yeah, I think he did.
Right. He was just protecting his sweet filling.
It was and folks, it was in the 1980s, in the 1970s and 80s and all those years. You could have a comic or a cartoon mascot firing off guns during children's TV shows.
Absolutely.
Settle down.
Rootin', tootin', fresh and fruitin', right?
Oh, that was a good rhyme, Jared.
Well, the company also used a number of animals.
I just stole it from Denny's.
The company used a number of animals, not all of which naturally have stripes, including a tiger, elephant, and a mouse before they settled on the zebra that we all grew up seeing in the 70s and 80s. According to Ferrara, the company that currently owns Fruit Stripe, the decision to sunset the product was not taken lightly. They considered, quote, many factors before coming to the decision, including consumer preferences and purchasing patterns, end quote. Strangely enough, it seems like the one thing that Ferrara didn't consider was making the flavor last longer.
I didn't care as a kid. It was always my first choice. I
agree.
I just didn't care. I loved that and juicy fruit. Those two, Fruit Stripe and Juicy Fruit.
Now that one lasts a little bit longer before it turns into Play-Doh in your mouth.
Yeah.
It did last a little bit longer, but Fruit Stripe was so pretty.
I was really hoping, Will, you were going to tell me they briefly considered using an inmate for the mascot.
Yipes.
But that'd have been great. Yikes, the Fruit Striped mascot. I did buy a pack of Fruit Stripe accidentally. I mean, I bought it on purpose, but not leading up to its cancellation. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I just happened to be, Fruit Stripe. I remember that. And I was unimpressed. And so then a few months later, when I heard it was canceled, or ended, whenever terminated, whatever they do to cancel gum. What do you do to gum?
Sunsetted.
Ended.
It got
sunsetted.
sunset.
Thank you. Now, I was like, about time.
Did you eat the gum?
Oh,
yeah, I did. It was just, I was unimpressed by it.
Okay.
Like Kat said, it was fine. It was fun, but it also wasn't particularly fruity and it didn't last very long. So I'm like, I mean, Hubba Bubba is way above it now. So
John, I thought you were saving it. I thought you were going to tell us that when you found out that it was sunsetted, that it's up on your shelf now.
No. I'd finished the pack. I'd shoot it all because on one car ride, you go through 3 sticks because it's like, oh, that one's dead. That one's dead. You know.
John's always advertising something.
There I am.
Get that out of here. I too was enamored with it. I didn't mind that the flavor didn't last long. And for me, it was one of the first things I remember as having a favorite of something. Like usually people say, what's your favorite music, your favorite movie? When you're very young, it's easier, to say I love Star Wars. It's my favorite movie. I grew out of that very quickly and I enjoyed many things. And I was sort of, I was slow to anoint anything my favorite. But Fruit Stripe was one of those things where if someone said you have a favorite candy or gum, it was Fruit Stripe, baby. And I felt more mature in a sense that I had like other adults had their cigarettes that they knew they wanted, or they would order the beer when they went to the store. They
had your brand.
I had my brand. Yeah,
you had your brand.
Now, Will, how do you remember Fruit Stripe? Because just having had some in the last year, when I opened it up, I was shocked by, has this always been like this? It was a regular stick of gum that looked like it had just been spray painted with some stripes. The stripes didn't go through the gum.
Yeah, no,
it was
just
on the
decoration
of the gum. It's always been like that. Okay.
That's how I recall. Yeah, it's a very light dusting.
It's like a watercolor. Yeah, watercolor.
Like I felt if I licked the gum a few times, stripes would be gone. Maybe.
Well, the bad news, as we mentioned, is Fruit Stripe's no longer being produced. The good news is, unlike John, who was able to purchase it in a store months before it was finally canceled, there's still packs found to be found online from enterprising resellers like some on eBay that are hoping that the candy will become a collectible. The last time I checked, you could get a pack for like $30 now.
Oh my goodness. I was going to say I got to go to eBay, but nope. Not that important.
The worst news, however, is that at least one of those listings that I came across characterized the gum as, quote, used.
What?
On eBay, you say whether something's new or used, and one of them said used.
Right.
So I don't know what that means in that context, but
I hope it means like a stick is gone, but the rest of it's fine.
Like the little strip around the top that is missing.
Pre-chewed for your convenience.
Now, I'm truly hoping that the fact that they terminated this gum is just some temporary publicity stunt, just like a new Coke, to bring the product's continued existence back into the zeitgeist, because many folks probably have forgotten about it. But imagine if they brought it back today with the same burst of flavor, but had it last long, at least as long as its mint flavored competitors. I think it could be huge.
Would anybody notice?
Notice that the flavor lasts longer?
Would they notice that it was lasting longer?
Eventually, I think they'd be chewing for a while. But, oh my God. Has it been a minute? It's been a minute, right?
Well, if you're going to improve it, they're probably going to make, I hope you're right, Will. You're wrong, but I hope you're right. And if they did bring it back, that would be part of the campaign. The new and improved Fruit Stripe is here.
Yeah.
Yipes is back, and Yipes rhymes with stripes. And he's not an inmate, and the gum lasts longer, and it's not spray painted on. It's part of the gum, and Bob's your uncle. So but it's not going to happen.
Now, I did reach out to Ferrara with these ideas and asking for their comment, but they haven't yet to respond. So what about bringing it back? What about making the flavor last longer? Did you ever do anything to make it last longer over the several decades it's been existing? Miss So says, "Rip fruity gum." I can say that. Yeah. Oh, I see what you did there. Michael says the flavor barely lasts 6.3 seconds. Miss So also says we should cover more commercials from the 80s that made no sense, like random bears in the woods squeezing toilet paper. Well, that kind of makes sense, right? You know why they did that, right? I mean, you know what bears do in the woods. Miss So.
That's right.
Yes.
Michael says the gum in the baseball card was the worst, though. Oh yeah, that was. But we would try it though, right? It was like cardboard.
Oh yeah.
I opened some 40-year-old wax packs about a year ago, and I tried the gum. I tried it and spit it out, but I did try it. It was even more crackly and crumbly and brittle and chalky than even I remembered.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
As it should be, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So it hadn't changed much in 40 years, then you're saying?
No, it had not. Other than it's probably poison now. It was the consistency and the taste was pretty much the same, except now it can kill me.
So I get high off of it now. Brendan says,
let me go dig it out of the trash then. I didn't know it had benefits.
You lick it.
It's a risk I'll take.
Brendan says, y'all can keep the fruit stripe.
Like a toad.
It was pretty good, but give me Big League gum in the foil pouch any day. Oh, yeah, that was good stuff.
Oh. I always wanted that. Could never get my hands on it.
And Donnie says, Bubblicious strawberry. Yeah, Bubblicious was great.
And Hubba Bubba, too. Both of those, Yeah.
I was going to say Hubba Bubba, yeah. Because Hubba Bubba was the one with the commercials where the guy would have the shootout with the bubbles, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
That was,
oh my gosh.
Oh man, you could really make big bubbles with those.
I'll tell you one that hasn't held up is Bazooka Joe. The gum got worse and the jokes that wrapped the gum became dad jokes.
Yeah.
Like that's all that's happened to Bazooka Joe.
Yeah.
You can buy it in the store like a tuba. It looks like Bubblicious. And they're individually wrapped with the silly cartoons now.
Yeah.
The gum is worse. And
the gum is worse? Yeah. Oh no.
It's somehow, it's like biting into a little pink brick.
But it always was like that. So it's worse. Oh man. I did love it though.
Oh, I ate the whole stick. I didn't throw it away.
Nope.
All right. Hey, in other 1980s news, as reported by comicbook.com, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle trailer has been released. No, the Great Circle is not the next inferior sequel to the films featuring our intrepid archaeologist. And thank goodness for that, right? Now, instead, it turns out that a little over 3 years ago, Bethesda and developer Machine Games announced that they were developing a new Indiana Jones video game. Well, during Microsoft's Xbox Developer Direct event in January, Bethesda unveiled the first look at the gameplay for it. It turns out the game takes place in 1937 between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. All right, that sounds really cool right already. I mean, just tell me that I'd be interested.
Yeah.
And Indy is joined on this journey by Gina. Okay, here comes Doomcock. Let's talk about how
That's right.
Go Woke, Go Broke.
That's right.
Ruined it, whatever. Kathleen Kennedy must be behind it.
She must be behind the production of this video game.
Anyway, she's a new female character, of course, because she's not part of the film franchise. Throughout his latest video game adventure, Indiana Jones will visit. No, she's going to assume the reins, I thought. She's going to die. Okay.
That's what Doomcock thinks, but we know the future already, so I figure she's going to die if we're not going to see her
in
in
the opening scene.
Oh, no.
Throughout the adventure, Indy will visit locales that include Sukhothai, Egypt.
Okay.
And the Himalayas. And as expected, they say as expected in this piece from comicbook.com. I wouldn't have expected it, but I'm really glad that it features the likeness of Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And the character seemed to be equipped with all the regular accoutrement that the globetrotting archaeologist had in the films. I think one of the most exciting things about this is it's a first-person perspective game. So you get to actually be in, assume the role of the archaeologist.
You get to crack that whip, right?
Yeah. The trailer looks spectacular. It reminds me a lot. First, it reminded me of a modern Wolfenstein game, which then I found out, it's rated back through the lineage. Makes sense there.
Right.
And not surprisingly, it has strong vibes that remind me of modern Tomb Raider games.
Yes.
Starring Lara Croft, which effectively Lara Croft is just a female Indiana Jones that they built to go and raid these tombs like Indy did. So, and it looks the same type of gameplay. It looks... There's clever things going on. I see him using pieces of the environment rather than always referring, to his whip and gun. Right. But he also does exercise his whip and gun in many places. So it's not just it seems like it won't be just a typical shooter with a coat of Indiana Jones paint on it, but rather they're imbuing him with some of the characteristics, the cleverness that you would expect, Dr. Jones to have. Beyond just the graphical beauty, I think the tone looks about right. So I was excited when I saw that.
Yeah. The trailer itself was so amusing to me. Did you hear the Wilhelm scream? There was a Wilhelm scream tucked in there.
I missed it. Really? I missed it. Good ear, Kat. Wow,
in
nicely
the
done.
first quarter of it, I was like, oh my gosh. And then they're showing him punching, and they do the punches in time to the music. So it's like, do, 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 do. That amused me. And there was a funny bit at the end. Somebody's holding a vase or something and drops it. And he says, do you know how much that was worth or whatever? There's a little bit of humor going on.
Yes. And a callback to the films as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have to ask Will, especially knowing what a big fan you are of Indy, what did you think in the trailer of what you could hear of the sound alike?
I think he's far enough there, I think
there's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the spirit of Harrison Ford. He certainly sounds somewhat like him. And it may even be that I'm not recalling necessarily what Harrison Ford would sound like at that younger age, because I'm still used to seeing him in films more recently. I've watched Raiders not too long ago. But I think he was enough. I think it was definitely enough, and better than other in the past when we've seen other incarnations of
Star Wars.
It's not as good as John's. Yeah,
they're Wookiees.
Peter Mayhew Foundation.
Donated to. Yeah.
Actually, Daniel's selling shit on eBay.
He wants his DNA back.
Oh,
Get that off my script.
They were no wonder.
So the game itself will arrive, it seems, some point later this year, and by some accounts, maybe not until December, and will be playable at least on Xbox and PC, which had really pissed me off when I read that. Because we've been promised for a while now that, Disney acquired Lucas, obviously, several years ago. And Lucasfilm, we're talking about in the 90s, was making really cool games, fun games. And they weren't, some of them were, Indiana Jones games, but they had others too that were fantastic. Star Wars games that were great. Monkey Island games that were just, these point and click games that were really fantastic. And then Lucasfilm eventually, Lucas decided, I think they shut that down. They didn't want to be doing that. It spent so much time on it anymore. Disney, I recall, John would know better than I would, I'm sure, because it's video games, but not too long ago, they were here to talk about them ramping up production again and, licensing stuff and developing some new things. And here we go. We get this one, and lo and behold, Xbox, Microsoft, has an exclusive deal to release it on their console. Well, that really ticked me off. And in fact, last year, Microsoft was battling with the FTC over purchasing Activision. And the FTC had, at the time, expressed concerns that, look, you're just buying up all these brands and smaller companies, and they are. And then what you're doing is making the games that folks are used to having from these smaller companies only playable on your platform, and that's anti-competitive, and it's all the things that the FTC is supposed to protect consumers against. And one of the things they were concerned about is with purchasing Activision was that Call of Duty is a big Activision game. And so the FTC said, what's going to happen when you have Call of Duty? Is it suddenly now all these people who play it on different platforms, they could only play it on yours? And Xbox said, no, that's not true. We've already given assurances to Sony that we won't do that. They know that. And as an example, during this case, to cite that, look, you guys are doing these unfair, practices. Look what happened. This is the FTC with the Indiana Jones game. That thing was supposed to be released on multiple platforms. And it turns out, yes, in fact, the CEO of Bethesda said that, the original deal with Disney and Lucasfilm was to make it available to multiple platforms, including the PlayStation, which I have.
Right.
But this changed after Microsoft acquired Bethesda.
Gotcha.
So, sadly, the FTC lost their efforts to stop Microsoft from acquiring Activision, and they now have that. So they've got Bethesda, which makes a bunch of games that are going back for decades now that are classic games.
Yeah.
And Activision, which, look, John just did a whole series of videos from classic, Activision games on his YouTube channel, GenX Grown Up, but they're still making powerful, popular
modern games today.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Makes me think that maybe there's a bunch of weekend Call of Duty warriors working at the FTC that were really pushing hard to make sure Call of Duty was available.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'd be like video games, whatever. Like, oh no, Call of Duty That needs to be available, right?
Yeah.
But I understand why they would do this. I mean, PC though is the great equalizer, right? So it's not like a console that you can or can't have. It could be anyone to have that computer. But many people just these days don't even have PCs for that purpose. They have tablets and their phones. Right. They don't even have a PC per se.
Right.
So I guess it's kind of become a console of sorts, but it's also an insulator that protects you because almost everything is released there and then on some platform, on some other console. And did they say it's probably a timed exclusive? I'm guessing like it'll be 6 months, 12 months or something. And then other platforms. That's usually how those things work. Did they say?
Well, it turns out, a story that just came out a couple of weeks ago, a source familiar with Microsoft's inner workings told The Verge that Bethesda is also considering bringing the game to PlayStation as well. Xbox had recently announced that they're going to make some of their classic titles or some of their already, produced titles available across multiple consoles. They haven't clarified which that means, but according to this story, the plan may include Indiana Jones. So, like John said, in this story that I read from The Verge, they said that they're going to give them a short window to just have it on Xbox and then ultimately put it out to PlayStation a few months after that.
Good.
Supposedly, which
Okay.
puts us in 2025 before we'd see it on PlayStation.
Gotcha.
So what I hear you saying is I need to play it on PC a lot and gloat leading up to the time when you can play it.
Yes.
Oh, Will, you're missing out.
Ugh.
I just sent you a video. You got to see this part.
I will not watch that, John. You know that. In fact, I'm just going to stop watching anything you send me from now on. Well, after the game comes out. After the game comes out.
Well, that assumes you watch anything I send you now.
Yes.
Well, I hope that John does record himself playing and also inserts a Cerveza Cristal ad.
Cerveza Cristal.
Oh, maybe good. Sorry.
There it is. That's good. Muy bien.
Love it.
Let's see here on our comments here. Michael says 2 platforms, PC and Xbox, are technically multiple platforms. You're right. It's multiple consoles. Like John pointed out, PC is like, the Switzerland of gaming hardware. Yeah. So
unless you have a Mac, and then it's not.
Yeah, that's true. Right. PC is PC is very specific. Yeah. Hey, finally, in 1980s news, Superman has begun filming. Now, if you guys didn't know, almost every 4 years, the Gregorian calendar receives its necessary realignment in the form of a leap year. To achieve this, there's an extra day that's added to February. You knew that already.
True.
Okay. All right. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right, we've been to public school.
As it turns out,
I've seen those.
Well, almost every 4 years it happens.
Huh?
Oh.
It doesn't happen every 4 years, it turns out.
It's not every 4 years?
Yeah, no, because it's, they count for the fact that we have the 365 days, right? Which isn't 364. So it's actually 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes and 56 seconds. So to count for that, we can't do it every 4 years. Otherwise we'd still get thrown off. So we don't do it on a fourth year if that year is divisible by 100, but not divisible by 400. I feel like John knew this already. John probably knew all this already. He looks bored.
He's shaking his head.
I think John knew that already.
No,
anyway.
I didn't know it. I'm just waiting for the interesting part.
Oh, there you go. There's the interesting part.
There's an interesting part.
John just made another.
That was nice.
John just made another $1.
Oh, all right. Cha-ching.
Anyway, all right, back to the story. So what you probably don't know is that it turns out that February 29th is actually also the birthday of Clark Kent. And this year, February 29th, not only was the birthday of the character from DC Comics, but also the start of the forthcoming Superman movie. It turns out that the Clark Kent's had different birthdays over the decades since his first introduction, years ago. But it was cemented on a 1976 DC Comics, quote, super calendar that listed a number of other historic occasions associated with DC Comics. including the fictional birthdays of these characters, of comic book characters.
So does that mean that Clark Kent, aka Superman, sorry if I spoiled that for anyone, is only like legally 12 years old because he's had so few actual birthdays?
Well, it turns out, John, that the earliest explanation they gave for why they chose February 29th, a leap year, was to account for the fact that Superman continued to look young, even though he was, several years older than his first introduction.
What?
Because that's how time works.
Yeah, right?
Exactly. So it's
I didn't age those 3 years. Rock on.
So they've since come up with another reason for the fact that he never seems to age. But they don't explain why Lois also looks the same age. I mean, so it's kind of stupid.
That's goofy.
Well, he just keeps getting new Loises. That's why.
Tosses her into the sun.
Next. I can auction off. This used to be a Lois.
Oh,
John, it popped into my head, but I didn't say it. It's like the Legos. Like the Legos.
You're too sweet. Yes, I know. Yes.
I love how Kat has to explain your joke.
She just cat-splained me.
Yeah. Anyway, also, as I mentioned here, as announced by James Gunn, this leap day was also part of the start of principal photography for his in-production Superman film. In a post celebrating the first day of filming, Gunn also shared an image of the Superman logo from the film, which was previously called Superman Legacy and is now just called Superman. Hey, hang on. You're not a Superman fan? Is that it, John?
That's not it. Go ahead. We'll get to that part.
Oh.
What's interesting about the logo that he shared of Superman, which seems to be across his chest, is that it has a dusting of snow.
As it often is.
Dusting of snow on it. Well, as it turns out, filming has commenced in Norway. The director opened up to a Norwegian outlet about the first scene he filmed and why he chose Svalbard as the filming location. He says, we have filmed the first scenes in Svalbard, which show Superman fleeing to the Fortress of Solitude.
Oh, yeah.
Now here's
so it's Superman Frozen Empire too. Nice.
Yes, of course. That's why I have this image that you were seeing there, Kat. This is an image that someone captured of them preparing to shoot there. Of course, this could be the set of The Thing. 1982's The Thing.
It could. Yes, it looks like The Thing.
I see the wind machines, and I see there's dollies in there, and
giant fans.
Big, box full of junk. And
Gunn said that we wanted a place that was beautiful and felt like being in the middle of the Arctic. So there you go. So there's a reason Superman's fleeing back to his Fortress of Solitude. Now, the film was originally called Legacy. They changed the title because Legacy seemed to imply things that Gunn originally thought might be included in his film, but ultimately when he finished the screenplay, he thought, you know what, that's not what's happening here. I think one of the good things they're doing wisely is they're not doing another origin story. Instead, this is Superman in the middle of being Superman, wrestling with what all that it means to be a superhero, and also being part Kryptonian and having been raised by humans, so identifying with our species as well. So I think more interesting stuff, the stuff that you want to get to past all that origin stuff usually in these films. And everybody knows, right? Do you need to know? I mean,
we already know.
You do, yeah.
You see a cop film, you don't see the guy going to the academy. I mean, he's a cop.
Right.
Soft crime.
I wonder how he became a cop. Gee,
yes. Well, I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
And they already covered that in Police Academy. We already we know what
that's right. We saw that.
Yes.
Yeah. My yawn wasn't against Superman. No. It was the DC extended universe that they have started and faltered and started and failed and thought they were off on and then they went in a direction and then that ended up nowhere. And so I'm having trouble once again mustering enthusiasm for the DC extended universe because they keep telling me this is it. And then they hit the reset button now, at least twice in recent memory. So good Superman film, happy to see it, but it's supposed to be this anchor of the new extended universe. And I'm like, quit saying that. Just make a good movie. And then if it's good, then that can be the cornerstone of the universe. Don't put the weight on this thing and go, so, like they did with Iron Man and Hulk for Marvel. Okay. They made those two films basically back to back or at the same time, hoping against hope that one or the other of them would take off. And Iron Man did, luckily.
Yeah.
And here they have one movie and they've already failed twice. And they're just saying, this is it. This is the new one. And I think they're putting undue pressure on the film, on the filmmaker, on the actors, and on the legacy. Wait till something organically becomes a universe and then flesh it out.
I see.
So
yeah,
that's my concern. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I'm a bigger DC fan than I am a Marvel fan, and I love the Marvel films. I was saying for years that I'm a DC Comics guy because I would read DC Comics, but as far as the films go, I definitely love those films much better than anything that DC had offered till then. That said, I have great faith in James Gunn because for the most part, I like his films.
Sure.
The Last Guardians of the Galaxy I thought was, we didn't really need that. But I really enjoy his Suicide Squad. I like his, what is his John Cena show? That's a spinoff of that.
Peacemaker.
I love that.
Yeah. Hilarious.
And those supposedly are still part of this universe. So I generally like his writing and his tone and his direction. But I agree with you, John, in that sense that they didn't have to announce all these plans. And it's going to look foolish if Superman is terrible.
It's a flop. You're like, oh, now what about your universe? Yeah.
And what is the benefit of announcing a dozen films that are coming out that are not in production yet for something that hasn't really taken off yet? I don't get that.
I saw in the chat, Inscrutable Owl said, in a very timely fashion, Warner Brothers will just shelve it.
Yeah.
They'll just shelve it.
That's true. I mean,
damn it. You're not wrong.
Yep.
You're not wrong.
Now, before we even see Superman, we're going to see Creature Commandos. I believe that's a straight to Max situation, but Superman will be the first to film in the theaters. I'm pretty sure. What I'm really excited about, though, is look, I'm an Ohio resident, so I learned that according to an Ohio motion picture tax credit application that was filed under the project's code name Genesis, the production will move to the Buckeye State beginning April 1st, where cameras will roll in Cleveland and Cincinnati. Now, while the application doesn't specify, the precise filming locations, the iconic character is connected to both of those cities. You may recall that writers Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster created Superman while attending Cleveland's Glenville High School in 1933, and Union Terminal in Cincinnati was the inspiration for another iconic building in Superman lore.
The Hall of Justice.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is a photo of the real location, the actual Union Terminal there in Cincinnati, which, as John has mentioned, was the inspiration for artist Al Gumer, I'm going to say, who drew it for the 1970s animated Super Friends series. Today, it's the home of the Cincinnati Museum. Although I'll say, when you go there, you can't help but feel you're going to somewhere much more important and interesting than the Cincinnati Museum, which is fantastic. The museum is great. Look how
impressive and gothic it is. Yes. I mean, just look at that arch. Yeah. It's beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
I learned about this on listening to a podcast, a GenX Grown Up podcast.
Well, what do you know about that?
Fuck that show. Fuck them. They've never been there.
On some other show.
No other shows. This is the only show. Now I am angry. No, okay.
No.
Anyway,
you wouldn't like Will when he's angry.
I got to tell you, there was a period of time where this Union Tower wasn't being used for anything, I don't believe. And it was only within the last 10 years that it became this museum. I was really so disappointed that they didn't make it into a Superman museum. We have, they have those other elsewhere. And there was one that was just recently developed out in, I think where Brandon lives, right, Brandon? Maybe there's one there.
Brandon mentions.
Which is what? Smallville? I don't remember. What's it called? Clarkville?
Brandon.
Anyway, Brandon's here in the audience. Here.
I think, is he in Illinois? I think.
Yeah. But I thought that was a real missed opportunity. And especially since it was just at the start of this, pop media boom, new infatuation with superheroes. Now, maybe they were more prescient than I would have been because it's waning now, as John pointed out. But I don't know. Anyway.
And people still love trains, so I think it is a train museum, isn't it? That's what I've read.
No,
That's what I remember.
It's just a museum. No? Museum, yeah.
Oh, it was. So the train affiliation that I had in my head was that it was a station initially.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
Oh, okay.
Got it. Mm-hmm. So there's got to be a train.
Yeah.
Metropolis, Illinois, says Brandon. Metropolis.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I knew it was.
So of course.
It's a tiny museum.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, look, I don't know why else they would film in Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati does have. It's a neat town. It's a great town. And it does have some buildings that have an older look still, even to this day, that might play into, or maybe a timeless look. We don't know when they're setting this. I'm assuming it's modern day, but it may have a building that still has the architecture we most associate with a sort of golden age Superman, maybe. kind of like they did in the 1978 Superman. That was a contemporary film, but they used the New York Post building, I think it was, as the Daily Planet, and it had that very sort of, I don't know, architecture, but that was that style that would have been keeping with a more, older generation Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Sure.
Yeah, kind of gothic.
I'm going to tell you right now, though, they used to film a lot of movies in Cleveland, and I would go down and see the ones I was interested in. They shot Spider-Man right outside of my office when I was working one day. And
wow.
The old Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
The worst Spider-Man.
Oh, no.
They shot some
Did you get to meet Tobey Maguire?
He wasn't even here. It was just a stunt man the whole time.
Oh, okay.
But they shot the Winter Soldier.
Oh, Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier. Yeah.
Because downtown
Captain America thing.
Downtown Cleveland, we had this stretch of road that could be New York. The buildings, they're not, most of them are not nearly as tall as New York buildings, but they could fill that in or you wouldn't even see it on screen. So they filmed a lot of stuff down here. And then for some reason, Cleveland went and built all this stuff on that street that now keeps it from looking like New York, or from a camera truck couldn't even get down the street because they put the god-awful giant chandelier, literally a giant chandelier hanging in the middle of the street. Yes, enormous. And now, guess what? They don't shoot movies there anymore.
Does it drop on New Year's every year? Does they drop it to the street?
I have my way with it. Anyway.
Yeah, this year it will.
Anyway, if they're shooting Superman here and anybody's here, I would love to go down and see that. That'd be fun. The film stars David Corenswet, I'm going to say, as the Man of Steel, Rachel Brosnahan. I've seen her on that Marvelous Miss Maisel. That's a good show. She's on that. She's Lois Lane and Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. There's a bunch of other people in there that you know as well that are good actors. We're not going to see it though until July of 2025, if that date even sticks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. Hey, we got caught up on all that news. So next week probably we don't have any news stories. It's just going to be all topics.
Not a chance.
You still have to play the news music though. Right. Are you going to close it out?
I will in a second.
And that was.
I'm going to see what the other folks say here. Brandon says, "Don't throw rocks at me," but I've never seen a Superman film that seems entertaining.
But Christopher Reeve.
Well, okay.
Well, maybe he hasn't seen the right ones. Who knows?
This is what I'm going to say. Kat, have you seen the Christopher Reeve Superman recently?
No, I haven't watched it recently.
Like, what do you think? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years?
Maybe around 10 years. Maybe a little more. Mm-hmm.
I'll admit, John, what about you?
Was it 78? When did that come out?
Yeah. Are you doing math now to see how long ago that was?
I'm trying to think how long ago since I saw it. I probably saw it in the early 2000s.
Okay.
02, 03, 04, right in there. So almost 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say
I watched it with my kids once.
The first hour of it is origin story. And that is kind of boring, I think. I do agree. Well, it's got some stuff.
I love an origin story. I love it.
It's fine.
It's still magical to me. It's fine. So many feels about that movie.
But
it's fine.
It's fine.
Two things. One, the actor looks nothing like Christopher Reeve. They put this makeup on him to make his nose look like kind of thin, like Chris Reeves was. But the other thing is, not the other thing. But I was going to say, the way they transition from the origin story to him being Superman, fantastic. He's in the Fortress of Solitude. He's learning all that stuff. Then finally, you see him fly toward the camera. Anyway, but so Brandon, I don't know if you've seen that one or not, but that one definitely is.
Wanawanga.
That's a great. What does that have to do with it? Because he's flying towards the camera? Well,
that's how excited I was when he flies toward the camera.
He was that excited. Oh my, that's very exciting.
But you know what? I did enjoy the first Henry Cavill one, except to the last 45 minutes, which was entirely a fight scene. And then finally he kills Zod, which is, it's not terribly Supermanish.
Yeah. What I hated about that one, by the way, is that he basically destroyed the city in an effort to beat the bad guy. Superman would never do that.
Right.
He would protect everyone at his own expense. Right. And he was demolishing Metropolis.
Right.
Silly. Yeah.
Yeah. Compare that with when he fought Zod in the Reeve one, where he led them away.
You go.
He's like, here.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hey,
there you go.
Assholes, come over here. And they were like, all right. Can't resist. All right. Hey, yes, that was 1980s news. And also our show.
And our show is brought to you thanks in part to our early adopters, Karen Flieger and and Rick Parker.
Love them.
Yes. And thank you especially to our Secret of Our Success level Patreon supporters, John Henderson, Brandon Greer, Marcus Taylor, Tony Great, Nick Guillory, Craig Coletta, and Matt Marino.
All right. Excellent.
Yeah, thank you guys so very much. Now, look, Rick and Karen, they are part of our early adopters, meaning that when we started our Patreon, they just did it. There was not a hesitation. So no matter what amount they were able to give us, we're going to thank them every chance we get. The other folks came on a little bit later and they give us more money. So that's why we say their name every week.
Yeah.
But look, the good news
it's kind of a trap because if you leave the early adopters, you can't get back in. So they're basically they're handcuffed into their contributions if they don't want to lose their status.
That's right.
Your evil plan is coming together, Will.
And I know look, John's got a team, that works with him on GenX Grown Up. So he doesn't have to get his hands dirty. But here we're a smaller operation. So I'm a terrible, no, it's not a slight against John. It's a slight against me. And I am a terrible 6 people. Yeah. See, look, 6 people. You just held up 2 threes. But this is my point, John. You're not going to feel so defensive when you hear it.
Please.
I'm a terrible businessman. Sure. I don't have a money guy. So my point is this. I was trying to think, hey, can we do a thing maybe where if you leave and come back, no matter how much you give, we still thank you anyway? So if you were a secret of my success and you leave and come back, we thank you. Even if you have to come in at a lower tier. I don't know. Why are we hashing this out in front of everybody live? I don't know. Okay, here's my point.
This is the first time hearing of it.
I know. This is the perfect time to talk about it. Anyway.
Ixnay on the Patreon pay, Ilway.
So anyway, look, if you can give money, please do. It helps pay the bills. And you can go to 1980s Now, or you can go to patreon.com/1980s Now to be able to do that. There's other ways to give us $1 or $2, just, one-off kind of things too. And there's plenty of free ways. Yeah. Just send us an email. Just post a thing on Facebook. Advertise a beer, something like that. Work.
I just made another $45.
Yeah. Work our advertisements into your media.
Yes.
There you go.
1980s Now.
So there you go. All right. We do have a couple comments here.
Miss So says, what kind of thong will you be wearing for my $1, Will? I work hard for my money.
She works hard for her money.
Well, Miss So, it's going to be made out of that $35 fruit stripe gum is what it's going to be made out of.
Yeah. Now, if it's made out of the fruit stripe gum material, John, how long will it last? I need to know. Is it going to keep together for more than 6.3 seconds?
The question you're not asking is how long will it taste good?
Oh.
You see. Oh. So, I'm just going to say it will last a good long while. Because
wait, this is not what Miss So's talking about.
Keeping the stripes intact.
All right, hang on a second. Honey, hurry. Sweetie.
I've got my gum pants on.
Never mind. Never mind. Time's up. Time ran out.
The flavor's gone now.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah. Honey,
it's not even fun anymore.
Honey, I want you to see if you can blow a bubble.
Well, speaking of yipes. Yipes.
That's what she says. Yeah. Yipes. All right. Hey, whatever pants we're wearing, we will talk to you next time on 1980s Now.
Until next time.
Goodbye, gum pants.